On the short term, of course, we have a lot of volatility in the global markets. I think markets are confused right now what the situation is. Recovery is on its way, but it's not a smooth process, and there are huge risks, especially related to the debt crisis in Europe. So I think we will see, for a considerable time, we will see these ups and downs, optimism, pessimism, and for India that means that capital flows can be very volatile. On the long term, the prospects for Asia and especially for India are very good. India has a young and growing population, and at some point it will actually be one of the last countries with a young and growing population. All other countries that are further along in the demographic transition will move to labor shortages. We already see that in Japan now. They have a huge problem with an overaging population, declining labor force by something like 15% in the last 20 years. Germany will soon get there, but even China will get there because they had a very radical population control policy in the 70s. So by the time India is really reaping the benefits of the demographic dividends when dependency ratios go down, it will do that at the same time where China and other countries are facing problems because of an overaging population. So the long-term prospects are very good. The question is always, how do you get from the long term, from the short term to the long term? In terms of the structure of the economy, there isn't a country that has maintained 60% of the population in agriculture and become rich on that basis. It's just the agriculture. I mean, in order for that to happen, agricultural productivity would have to be so high that India would basically supply the rest of the world with food, and it's just not feasible. So growth, long-term growth, requires that a lot of people move out of agriculture and into the manufacturing sector. It is always often said that the Indian model is different in the sense that it jumped over manufacturing and went straight into services. I don't quite buy that. I think India needs to develop the manufacturing sector like other countries have done before it in order to absorb the labor force. India can certainly overtake the momentum in terms of growth rates. I think in 20 years it's highly likely that India will have a higher growth rate than China. But China, of course, will be still richer than India. In the same way that in 20 years the US will still be richer than China, or on per capita terms, of course. So because it takes a long time to catch up. The gap is huge. I think per capita income in India is about $1,000. I think in China it's about $3,000-4,000, and in the US we are talking about magnitudes higher. So it will take a long time to catch up. But in the catch-up period, I can very well see that India at some point will be the fastest growing country on the planet.